Hi, welcome back to the VirtualLight Broadcast on lightworker.com. My name is Janelle Collard, and I'm your host today. Today we have contemporary mystic Lori Daniel Falk with us, and you're really going to enjoy her work. I'll tell you a little bit about Lori. Lori Falk is referred to as everything from a savvy businesswoman and spiritual life coach to a celestial networker and visionary artist. I told you I stumble in the beginning. Perhaps it'd be easier just to call her a contemporary mystic, as her work runs the gamut from traditional psychology to mystical rituals. As a spiritual life coach, she helps individuals find their life purpose by exploring the world of endless possibilities. As a celestial networker, she channels a divine team of angels and guides. As a visionary artist, she creates angelic portraits that bring a feeling of wonderment and profound healing to all who view them. As a businesswoman, Lori is the founder of the Crystalline Institute, an organization designed to assist individuals in bringing spirituality into their everyday lives. She is also a cutting-edge metaphysical speaker who has taught celestial communication and conscious creation workshops across the nation. Lori is a graduate of the School of Psychology, a certified master spiritual life coach, and a level 3 Reiki practitioner. Lori's current emphasis is on her visionary artwork, which manifests in the form of angelic message portraits. These magical portraits serve as an emotional healing tools. They calm the mind, soothe the soul, and enliven the heart. The portraits carry a benevolent, loving energy from the angels that work at a deep heart level to bring comfort in a time of need, as well as inspiration and hope and motivation. She's presently working on the completion of her book, What the World Needs to Know Now, Wisdom of the Angels, designed as an artistic guidebook featuring portraits and messages to assist the world during these transitional ascension times. Got through that. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So glad you could make it. Lori, and this is her assistant, Gail Redash. I knew I was going to mess that up. Gail Redash. And welcome to the show, Gail.
Thanks.
Well, first of all, tell me, what are these angelic portraits that you create?
Well, they're a gift from God, truly. I was channeling messages from my divine team of angels and guides, and I kept getting messages to draw. And I totally did not understand that because I have no artistic abilities, no artistic training. I'm a writer, I'm a public speaker, but my dad was the artist in the family. So I really pretty much ignored the messages until I realized one day that they had been coming for about 6 months. So I had one of those days in January in Wisconsin, dismal, gloomy, nothing was working, and I said, you know what? All right, fine. Everything I've tried hasn't worked, so you want to draw? Let's go draw. But if we're going to draw, then it's going to have a purpose. Mm-hmm. And I went upstairs to my sanctuary in front of the altar, and I said, all right, here's what I want to know. What does the world need to know at this time? And I took out my angel cards, and the card that literally fell out of the deck was all is well, all is in divine order. And I created a portrait in about 45 minutes. That was amazing. And
you just start doodling on paper, or what did you have?
Well, I took out pastel chalks because they were there. Mm-hmm. My nieces and I played with them on occasion, and they were there, and I had some paper, and I said, all right, well, this is all we have, so this is what we're going to use. And I have 20 years in the fashion industry, so I have a very critical eye for color and line and design. So when this portrait was done, I appreciated it. I liked it. And being a very self-critical person and a type A Capricorn, I was like, wow, if I like this, something is going on here that is so much greater than I. And as a friend of mine once said, Lori, you're just the functionary. You just need to show up and let it flow.
That was so beautiful. Now, how long ago was this?
This was 2.5 years ago.
So not very long at all.
No, not at all.
This is all new.
Yes.
So that's really a wonderful story. Now, when this first came about, are these your personal guides that you've known for a long time, or did this come booming through?
Well, interestingly enough, I actually channeled my mother for the first time on April 28th, 1989. My mom had passed away in 1980, and she came through one day in a very profound way, and I absolutely knew it was her. I wasn't sure what was going on, but I smelled her body aroma, And at the time, I had a trade publication for executives in the retail fashion industry, and I was a little discouraged. It was 3 years. It wasn't exactly as successful as I had wanted it to be, so I was thinking about going back into corporate America, and, oh, they didn't want anything to do with that.
They had different plans for you.
They had way different plans for me. And my mom showed up, and I got this clairaudient message that simply said, "You're here to help the many, not just the few. The path you're on will take you there. You will feel fulfilled and rewarded."
Wow.
And
Is
because
that intimidating?
well, it was a little overwhelming because I had never had an experience like that. And this was right after the harmonic convergence. But back then, I didn't know that.
Okay.
I didn't know any of that because I was in the fashion industry and I was in the publishing industry, not in the metaphysical industry, if you will. I had an interest in it. It always intrigued me. The woman who was the illustrator for my trade publication was definitely a light worker. And the day, every month that she would come and work with me, I would just pick her brain and learn so many things about crystals and, you know, the spiritual realm.
Sponge up everything you can?
I was like a sponge once a month. And the irony is here I am. That's what I'm doing now.
I know. Well, it's fabulous.
Yes.
Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Right. So when this message came through from my mom, I knew that something amazing had happened. In fact, I wrote it on the back of a legal pad, on the cardboard, and I still have that today.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes. Yes. So I went through a dark night of the soul right before 9/11. And during that dark night of the soul, I asked over and over again, what am I here for? And I knew that I was going through this for a reason. And as I came out of it right after 9/11, I heard the words spiritual and psychology in one sentence, and I said, I don't know what that is, but I know I must be part of it. And 5 days later, I was enrolled in a 3-year program.
Well, and you know, there's a book out called Spiritual Psychology by Steve Rother.
Yes, absolutely. I hadn't read it at that time.
It's a great book.
Yes.
So tell me, what are these portraits? Run me through what exactly these portraits are. I know that they're for healing.
Yes. They're an emotional healing tool. As I said, the messages purely came through to draw, and I really was stumbling through what it was, and I know my guides well enough, and my mom certainly knows me well enough, that they were not going to let me get into my head about this.
Okay.
So they really didn't tell me, and they worked through one of my friends and a client of mine who said, what's it going to take to get you to do this? And so we talked about it and came up with the idea that I would do a reading and then create a portrait based on that reading that would carry that energy. And I'm sure that was channeled through because it just kind of came. And she said, great, we're doing it tomorrow. And she came over at the appointed time, and we set out to do it, and we were both so moved by the process.
Did you paint it right in front of her?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
my goodness.
And she shared with me what an incredible healing it was and how she felt as I was placing the chalk on the page, that it actually, she's an energy worker, so she's very sensitive to energy, and she could really feel how it was shifting and changing her emotionally.
That's so incredible.
Yes.
Now, so when you're painting, are you seeing an aura? Are you seeing messages? You hearing things? How does it work for you?
Well, each time it's different. Basically what happens is you would come to me and say, I'd like some guidance on what can my angels and guides tell me so that I can experience more joy in my life.
Okay.
And then we would do an invocation, and I'd call in my guides and angels, and I'd invoke your guides and angels, and we'd set forth that question. And then I would tell you what I'm getting clairaudiently, clairsentiently, clairvoyantly, claircognizantly, and also I use angel cards. And I have 4 different decks anywhere from 4 to 5 decks on the table at any given point in time, so that they know what to target. They know which deck has which card with which meaning for you.
You just feel drawn to take.
And well, they'll say it's the 8th card from the bottom of the deck on the right.
Oh my goodness.
Or the 9th card from the top of the deck in the middle. Or they'll say, shuffle this deck, and I will, and then they'll just fly on the floor. They just pop out. And we go, oh, well, we know that one for sure. Absolutely. So then the reading takes about a half an hour, and once the actual reading is done, which we'll tape record for you, I then create a portrait, and I have no idea when I sit down what it's going to be. I close my eyes, and I start getting images. Sometimes they tell me symbols or show me symbols. Sometimes they'll flash an image of what the final product will look like. Sometimes it's just put a turnip in the lower left-hand corner at the bottom of the page. And I asked this particular client do you like turnips? And she said, not particularly, but we've since become friends. And she shared with me that evening after her portrait was done, she went home and watched a movie with her husband. And in the movie, there was a scene where a chef was describing how a woman is like a turnip and her beauty is on the inside. And she'd been through some tumultuous times in her life, and she just started sobbing in the theater, and her husband's like, what's wrong?
A turnip.
And she's like, never mind, you wouldn't understand. But so that's how literally I have to trust the guidance, because I have no idea.
You learn not to question it, because it's really none of your business either, too. It's for them, not for
isn't.
you. Wow, that is incredible.
Like once they said, ask this woman if she's had her orange juice yet today. And I said, I'm not asking her that. Now, I have this conversation with them that my clients don't know. We're arguing, and I'm just kind of smiling at my clients. And I said, I'm not asking her. And finally, they said, we're not giving you anything else until you ask her if she's had her orange juice yet
Isn't
today.
that funny?
And I said, okay, this is going to sound crazy, but, and I asked her, and she said, oh my God. On the way here, I made a mental note to remind myself to take my orange juice this evening because I forgot this morning. And all they wanted was for her to know how real this was.
Right, giving her a clue there.
Right.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, not exactly when it's happening to you in the moment, but now I can say it is, yes.
How many portraits do you think you've done to date now?
Oh,
Hundreds,
hundreds.
thousands?
Not thousands yet, but definitely hundreds. I've done many, many, many for individuals, and now I'm doing the ones for the book.
Now you also, and which we will talk about the book as well, but you also want to take this to a deeper level, don't you? And you do some work with charities, or
we're just starting to get into the charity work. I've had a vision for a long time about wanting to help the light workers move to another level. And one thing I know for sure is that we still live in a third dimension, and there's still financial resources that are needed for a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And one of my original ideas was to start a scholarship fund for light workers so that they could go to the School of Spiritual Psychology or go to be a naturopath or something like that. I mean, you don't get scholarships for these types of things. And then it occurred to me it unfolds. I just get up in the morning and go, okay, what next? I used to be type A, Capricorn, anal retentive, had all these business plans, scaled down to the day, the week, everything, and now I just go, okay, what's next?
That's a pretty big leap of faith, too. I love that.
Well, it is. But what I found is they know so much better than I do. And when I follow the energy, the way they're guiding me, magic happens. So what next is to follow the energy. And one of the ways that I have followed the energy is to look at some of my deepest, darkest wounds. And in so doing, I created a portrait that Gail has here.
I was hoping the camera's going to pick some of these up. The one is just more beautiful than the next.
Right. So you can hold that one. I was abused when I was a very young girl. And
as so many women have been.
So many have been, yes. And I really, it impacted every level of my life. And during a very low point, I asked my therapist what I could do to move past this. Thank you. To move past this. And she said, I want you to go home and do one of those portraits for yourself.
For yourself.
And ask the angels how you can heal from this. And this is the particular portrait that I did. And
so it looks like an angel kneeling.
It is. It's an angel that's kneeling, and she's crying. And she's crying this infinity river of tears, this non-ending river of tears. And I think I mentioned to you earlier, it is, in all my travels, it's the only one that's ever gotten wet. And the water spots are exactly where the tears are.
From your own tears.
And it was actually rain. The rain came in the car and got it wet. And then as the healing occurs, the angel speaks through its heart. And then the gold light comes and the sunshine comes and the healing occurs. But when that portrait was first done, I couldn't get near it. I hung it in my foyer.
Really?
It was too powerful. It was too intense. And so I started to learn the power of this work through that angel. And then I had a client come in, and she got to the top of the stairs and stood in front of it and started sobbing.
Oh.
And this particular woman had also been abused as a young girl.
Now, she'd know what that was about, or she just saw it?
She had no idea. And then she apologized, and I said, no, you don't need to. You've just shown me the power of this work.
Just absorb it.
Right. And so as time went on,
so did you donate this to anybody?
this one
or have
is
you done...
in my private collection and probably will always be in my private collection. But what happened after that, about a year later, is I was having a low point. January seems to be a tough month for me because this happened again in January. But, Wisconsin in January, I got to tell you, it's not quite like Las Vegas.
It's a little dreary.
Yeah, a little dreary. And I remember talking again to my therapist, who I see just occasionally at these days, and I said, everything that I look at in my life that I'm unhappy about seems to stem back to that abuse. And while I'm not angry about the abuse, I need to heal that. And she said, you need to decide what you're going to carry forward in your life from that experience.
What's the gift in the...
What's the gift in the wound? And I, in my tears and emotional state, wrote this on a Post-it note, put it on the kitchen counter. And the next day, when I went back to look at it, I realized it was laying right next to another Post-it that I had put there the night before, when I had suddenly woke up after sleeping on the couch, and the TV pop was on, and all I heard was 1 out of 4 young women will be sexually abused by the time they're 18. And my heart just went out, and the next thing I caught was darknesstolight.org. And that's what I had written on the Post-it. And there they were, side by side. And so I created this, what we call the Childhood Protection Angel, to help heal the sexual abuse that's taking place on the planet right now. And our intention is to go forward and sell this portrait and contribute a significant amount of the proceeds to organizations like darknesstolight.org to help heal the planet.
Thank you for that, too, because that's 20% of women.
Yes.
1 out of 4. That is just insane.
Yes. And what's surprising is the numbers for boys are equally as high. And so it's a major it's a major issue facing everyone today.
Absolutely.
And this portrait, when it was created, I did this when I was up in the North Woods with a friend of mine. So there's only one other person who saw the original layer to it, and it's the only portrait that I've only started one day and finished 3 days later. And the original one was all chaos. And I couldn't even look at it. She couldn't look at it. We kind of set it aside. And I came back to it just as the day we were preparing to head back home. And I blended all of that back into the background and created the angel that came forth. And the angel that has come forward is very powerful.
Incredible.
Very powerful.
The colors are just beautiful. And you have never been an artist before?
No.
You just never know it?
No.
So now when you're going to create some new angels, do you just ask the angels, what can we use right now? Or what is the best thing? Because, obviously there's all kinds of abuses. There's, I know you have things on planetary healing and several. Why don't you run us through some of these?
Because you have the original on that one. Well, one question as a spiritual life coach that I get all the time is, I believe I have a child that's an indigo. What do we do? So we created one specifically for the indigo crystal children. And I'll just share with you a portion of the message.
Please.
It has been said that the indigo and crystal children represent perhaps the most exciting, albeit odd, change in basic human nature that has ever been observed and documented. As you might imagine, these new children are highly sensitive to their environment. They're easily impacted, both emotionally and physically, to external stimuli, making it of paramount importance to create a home environment that allows them to feel relaxed, comfortable, and free of the stresses of the outside world. The Indigo Crystal Angelic Message Portrait, featured here today, has been created to help these amazing children feel safe and at home in what often seems to them a rather unusual and sometimes frightening place to be.
Beautiful. Now, you channeled that information as well?
Yes.
Now, what would you do with that painting? Would you put that in a child's room?
Yes.
Or just in the home? Or?
Yes, and when we go out to shows, invariably, it's the young indigo children that come up and go, Mom, I want that one.
Isn't that something?
It's amazing to me, because just as the abuse angel, every woman that's been drawn to that has been abused. It's the indigo children that are drawn to that angel, or indigo adults for that matter.
A question that I have too before you go on to your very next one. Do you, if I were to come to get a reading from you, and having many issues, as we all do, would it be good for me to get more than one? Say I wanted an issue about career or, stepping forward, and then maybe I wanted one about relationships, or maybe one about my health. So would everything come out in one reading, or would it be better to do different segments?
You could do it, and I always tell the client it's based on their wants and their needs and their financial abilities. Certainly, there's more power in doing them for your specific individual needs, and I have many clients that have 2, 3, 4 of them. I have one client that has half a dozen and then has bought other originals. She loves this work so much. But you could simply say, I need guidance on health, career, life purpose. And it would come through, and it would be beneficial. It's just that the individual ones, obviously, are just going to be that much more powerful.
Okay, great.
So then we did.
Yeah, please.
Okay. We did one recently called the Golden Rainbow of Joy Angel. And this one I did, it was the very first one that I did a group channeling. And I said, what do the members of this group need to know to experience more joy in their lives? And here's a portion of what came through. Experiencing more joy is high on most everyone's list of desires. The angels tell us to do this. We must understand that everything is occurring in perfect timing. So rather than getting caught up in the drama of what ifs and shoulds, we must focus on being more in the moment, as we just heard earlier in the first segment, and find the peace in the knowledge of divine order. Instead of hurrying and trying to force things to happen, watch for the doors that are opening and walk through them with grace and ease. If an opportunity presents itself and it feels right, allow it, even if you don't know where it will lead. That information will be given to you when you need to know.
That's beautiful.
Thank
and
you.
boy, that is for everybody, isn't it? I mean, that just hits some heartstrings for all of us.
Yes.
Also, all of these, we're going to look at a few more of these, but these are all on your website at this time?
Yes.
That's crystalline.
www.crystallineinstitute.com.
And that'll also be posted on the Lightworker website. You can see that up there now. Okay, so do you have another one quick? We've got about another 5 minutes here.
Okay. Yes. Well, this is a topic that's on everyone's mind, the angel of abundance.
Wrap that one up for me.
Yes, and that's a favorite of many people's. The angel of abundance reminds us that the law of attraction is in action at all times. Similar to the law of gravity, it just is. With that in mind, it is important to note that you can only attract things into your life that are in alignment with your current emotional state or vibrational frequency. So not only is it important for us to watch our thoughts, we must monitor our emotions as well. It's explained like this: if every thought is a prayer, every emotion is an even stronger prayer. To attract unlimited abundance into your life, you must be vibrating at a high frequency. Let the angel of abundance help you raise yours now. Let her help you eliminate negativity. Focus on desires instead of fears. Practice the fine art of forgiveness. And most important of all, let her help you adopt an attitude of gratitude.
Love that. That's beautiful. I see that you have these all framed differently. Do you decide what frames go with them?
Yes,
or
that's the fun part. Once the work is done, I run off to the store and buy the frames and the mats, and that's where my old-fashioned industry days come back in handy.
Well, obviously it was meant to be because you do a great job with them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's amazing that... so you take these on display, don't you? You take them across the country and display them at art shows and things?
Art shows, metaphysical shows. We're going to be up in Toronto in September. I can't remember the exact name. It's something The Secret is the theme of it, which is quite fitting at the moment.
Yes.
We'll be at I Can Do It in October and Celebrate Your Life in November. And I'm missing one.
Chicago.
Oh, Chicago, Body, Mind, Spirit Expo.
Great. So, but right now, if you are not able to get to one of those, you go directly to your website, and then they can contact you. Now, we're going to have to take off in just a second, but we'll be back. But one quick question: if I was to get a reading done with you, would I need to, since I'm not in Wisconsin, would I need to send you a picture of myself? Or
it can be done any number of ways. You could simply call up and say, I'd like to have this done, and I'm really busy. Could you just do it for me? Here's my question. And I would invoke your angels and guides and tap into your energy. And you wouldn't necessarily need to be there, but if you wanted to, we'd set an appointment, and I'd call you on the phone, and you could be on the phone during the entire process, and I would just share with you what you would get if you were there in person. So I'd share the reading with you, the invocation with you, and then I'd tell you what I was doing while I was drawing it. Now, eventually, when we get a little more sophisticated, we'll have a webcam on it, and you'll actually be able to see it live.
That'll be fantastic.
Don't hold us to a time on that one.
Yeah, all in good time. Huh?
Yes.
Well, that's fabulous. We have to go off to a break now, but we'll be right back in just a few minutes with more of Lori Daniel Falk.
Thank you, Janelle.
What?